I will say that like during the first year, because there were a lot of times that I was like shocked, like how is the human race still going? Like everyone does it. Like
It's not really.
What did that?
It's not.
But it's fun now.
Christine comes to make sure that we broadcast good. Civil.
Here we go. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Erin Stevens. Welcome to the February 5th meeting of the City of Charleston's Design Review Board. Members of the board present are Ben Whitener, Lucas Boyd, and Ashley Jackwell. Members of city staff are David Meeks, DRB staff, and Patrick Carlson, city clerk. No board members are recused from any of the projects today. No agenda items have been deferred from today's meeting. There is no one from the public who has signed up to speak, but we will give opportunities for the public to speak during each agenda item. The order of the meeting will be as follows. First, there'll be an introduction of the project and context overview by staff. Project presentation by the applicant. You have a 10-minute time limit, but if you need more time, you can request an additional 10 minutes before you start your application. All presenters must clearly state your name for the record. People affiliated with the project should speak at this time. So any designers, owners, developers speak during the presentation. This will be followed by board questions and then public comments, which will also be limited to 10 minutes. Anyone from the public, please also clearly state your name for the record, followed by city staff recommendations. And then the applicant will have 5 minutes to respond or clarify public comments and city staff comments. At which time the applicant will take a seat and we will move into board discussion. Applicant may only speak during board discussion when recognized by the chairman, but otherwise may only speak if asked a question by the board. Then we'll have board motion, further discussion, and a vote. Please turn off all mobile phones and any other devices that will make noise at this time. Comments from the public are to be limited to the site design and architecture. This board does not have authority over zoning issues such as land use, building density, and flooding or traffic. All right. So the first item on our agenda is 2029 Harlow Way at 3509 Maybank Highway, requesting approval for a completed mock-up panel.
Thank you, Aaron. I just have a few context slides just to show everyone where the project is. You can see the red thumbtack on Maybank Highway. This is 2029 Harlow Way, which is a new street, a little closer view. This is a power line on the west property line, and it's kind of a triangle shaped lot, which you'll see here shortly. But I'll turn it over to Laura.
Okay, thank you. You can actually flip to the next slide if you will. So we have 9 color schemes for the dwelling units to be applied on both the unit cottages as well as the townhomes. And I do have, I know digital and screen are always hard to see true colors. I do have paint samples if you want to see those, touch and feel those. You can flip again, David. There is a 10th color for the amenity buildings, the clubhouse, mail kiosk, maintenance buildings. So moving here, left to right in the image are the 9 colors for the dwelling units, inclusive of the main body color, which is portrayed on the lap siding, and then the accent color, which is portrayed on the board and bat, and trims the trim color. Everything on the left-hand side of the panel is for you guys. We did have the contractor leave open intentionally exposed water, vapor barrier flashing for us to use as quality control inside. So really we're asking to look at the finished portion here. Light fixture as well. And then if you flip, David, we'll see the ends of the panel, and those are the amenity colors. Flip again to, this includes those color palettes applied to the various unit dwellings. So you can see how the main body secondary colors are being utilized. You can flip again. And then options on the town. I think that's it. I don't think there's another slide, is there? Oh, there.
Okay.
Renderings.
Are there any questions from the board? Anyone from the public here to speak on this project? Okay, staff comments?
Thank you, Aaron. Staff inspected the mock-up panel on February 21st. We found the panel to be well constructed. Has excellent craftsmanship. The materials are good, and in fact, the colors were great. And we're recommending approval for the mock-up.
Applicant want to clarify or respond to anything? Great. All right, you're welcome to sit down now. We'll move into board discussion. And a motion.
My only comment was, saying David and Lucas was, the siding close adjacent to the grade. Most cementitious manufacturers want you to have at least 6 inches, I guess. I'd be fine either with that or with a skirt board at the bottom. Yeah, either one's fine with me, but other than that, I think the mock-up's detailed well, and I actually like that you showed the breakaway that shows how the windows recessed a little bit. So I appreciated that. All right. I'll make a motion.
All right,
Motion for approval of the mock-up panel.
do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? I'll roll for a vote. Ashley? Yes. Aaron? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is 1804 Sam Rittenberg Boulevard, requesting preliminary approval for a new FNB bank branch.
I didn't have any context slides. You guys can jump right in.
And do you think you'll need more than 10 minutes for the
No,
presentation?
right.
Okay, go ahead.
Right, I'm John Pritch, I'm the staff architect on the project. Chris Haggard, this design project. And I'm Skylar Brown, landscape architect. So I did put some context slides in this, so as you can see where they're at, so we are located in West Ashley. Is there, we zoom in, we're at the intersection of Sam Rittenberg and Ashley River Boulevard. Ashley River Road, sorry. And there's the site, there's the former Burger King site, currently it's in the van. All right.
And just let me know when you advance the slides.
So this is the site as it currently exists, the abandoned Burger King with ingress and egress off of both Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and Ashley Woods Road. Some of the surrounding context, the Bank of America next door, the Customs Immigration Services across the road, the Tropical Smoothie just down the road, and then the Harris Teeter Plaza directly behind us. There's the existing conditions of the site with the Burger King as it exists today. There's an overall context photo of what the bank branch will look like. So it's sitting facing the intersection there, providing a nice view for everybody by the site, with landscaping around.
Sorry.
Next slide. So this is the proposed site layout. So as I mentioned, we pushed the building as far to the front as possible. And then we kept all the circulation in the back along with the parking. So we have a drive-through and parking space back. Slide. This is the landscaping plan. Landscaping was updated. Next slide. So there's a colored landscaping plan. We updated the landscaping plan based on staff comments and board comments from the previous submittal. It's a completely new site plan utilizing all native plants to South Carolina. So these are the proposed trees and understory trees that we are looking to use. So, along with the shrubs, grasses, and ground cover. Next.
I'm sorry.
This is proposed floor plan. Floor plan has not changed since our last submittal. But the only difference is that we added a couple windows on the back side of the building there along the drive-through to add fenestration. Slide. So this is the proposed versus current, or previous versus current or building elevations. We moved around some of the cast stone water table to break it up a little better. We raised the tower element to make it more prominent in the intersection. And the ethos panels that we previously had above the windows, we've switched to cast stone panels. Next slide. This is around the side. Again, previous elevations, we had just the ethos panels on the sides of the building there. We switched those out for cast stone panels. Next slide. This is the most predominant changed elevation. We again moved around some of the cast stone water table, added some fenestration to the back, and then we also added some, it's hard to see on the screen here, but we added some soldier coursing and some different brick coursing up above the windows just to break up the elevation more. And soldier courses protrude from the rest of the brick coursing to create a shadow line, just to create a little more depth and interest. Again, previous versus existing, we added a canopy over the back entrance and again switched the panels above the windows over to cast stone. You can just go through these, David. These were just the same thing that we saw. So this is the view that we have from the main intersection there. And then as David goes through, you can see it around the building. Just to clarify, I know it's a little light, but we showed mulching with river gravel. It looks a little similar to the concrete and rendering there, but just to clarify that. And then sidewalks leading up to the front entrance. We have screen walls around the entrances there. Next slide. Again, the back view just showing landscaping, showing how the fenestration started to break up the back elevation there. Next. This is the Ashley River Road side, just again showing elevations there. So these are the proposed materials that we're looking to use on the building. The main brick on the building is the Glengarry Ravenna style brick with the rock cast flax colored cast stone. The accent brick, which would be the Flemish bond and soldier courses, would be the Glengarry sycamore color. And then we have some ephes work, which is in Indiana limestone, the clear anodized aluminum storefront, and then clear anodized aluminum awnings. Some details just showing the difference between a standard running bond, which is what most of the building is, and then just what a Flemish bond looks like. Typical screen wall section showing how that would be assembled. And then just show some details showing how we're creating some recesses in the building just to create some depth in the structure. And at the end of our presentation, these are just technical documents beyond that.
All right. Are there any questions from the board?
I have a couple questions. Chair. The first question is the mechanical rooftop units.
Yes.
Are they completely concealed behind the parapet?
Yes, they'd be completely concealed.
Okay, so no screening. They are completely concealed in the depth of the parapet wall.
Yes, that parapet's not high enough if you want to.
All right. Next question was the screen walls. Were they intended to be? Were you guys thinking that that's where somebody could come and sit, or just curious why they're 2 feet tall? Were you thinking that's a seating area at the screen
Not
wall?
really interested in the thinking area. We were just following, staff had requested the screen walls and we were sort of going off of the code guidelines. If you were to use a screen wall in lieu of plantings around the perimeter, I believe it asked for it to be 2 feet high. So that's kind of.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
Small detail, but are you draining the roof internally? Because there's no, I didn't see any downspouts.
Yes, yeah. There will be
Yeah, there is.
overflow, just your standard cow tongues on certain locations around the building, but yes, the primary drainage is.
No, that's it.
I had a question. You mentioned, I think I heard you correctly and I missed it on the plan earlier. You said the mulch is river gravel
Yes.
for the whole
That-
site?
That's where we're.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak regarding this project? All right, then we'll move into city staff recommendations.
Some staff observations first. The applicants have addressed all the previous board and staff comments from the previous board meeting. And the landscape plan has improved quite a bit. Staff comment number one, staff recommends finding a substitute for the redbud trees that prefer part shade. Also, we recommend substitute for the gardenia tree, which prefers very wet conditions such as edge of a wet. Staff comment number two, staff recommends the lighting consultant to see the DRB lighting policy statements. There are foot candle levels well above what DRB allows at 5-foot candles in the parking lot area. The lighting plan also calls for 19 floodlights on the building, which are not permitted. The higher lighting levels under the drive-through canopy are permitted to be higher as the applicants are showing. Step comment number three, DRB typically calls for a 3 to 3.5 high screen wall for the at the street to screen the parking. Staff asked the board whether they feel 2 feet high screen wall will be sufficient. Understanding that too tall of a screen wall for short segments can look a little odd, so this may be okay. Right. Number four, for future reference, staff asked that the applicant remove all the in the set that does not apply to the DRB preliminary review checklist, such as interior elevations and underground utilities for civil. Number five, staff asked that the applicant study the added cast stone face placement. It appears to be sporadic. There are a few locations where it does not wrap a corner, and staff feels it should. And we also question whether the capstone should be a continuous water table all the way around the building. On the south elevation, lower right, has some brick labeled as CS1. But with that, we do recommend preliminary approval with the conditions noted and final review by staff.
Thank you, David. Any response or clarification?
So I see you emailed me about the light comments.
Yeah.
So.
We had discussed the lighting already.
No, it's perfect.
All right, great, thank you. All right, now moving into board discussion and a motion.
I was just curious, I think the last meeting, you guys had mentioned maybe tying in circulation to the adjacent property, was that?
It's
Turn
still
down.
in process.
So that might happen,
It
actually.
might happen, but.
I think that's a positive. but maybe.
Yeah, we would love it too.
Yeah.
So it's just two different landlords
Yep.
talking to each other. So.
Understood, thank you.
Thank you.
Are we in board discussion? Maybe could you go to a sheet that shows this wall, this screen wall?
Let's see.
Thank you.
Yeah, here's one.
It looks like it's almost a good seating wall there. No. But the landscape plan's not drawn.
Yeah.
Show it
rendering
as
is
being
not-
this, see, it's got landscaping all over it. It's different.
We need to judge it by the plan, not the.
Fine, it's 2 feet. 2
Yeah.
feet. With the staff's comment about the continuing the water table. David,
Let me
can you
get
do that?
one of those elevations.
Yeah, it almost looks like it needs to stop where the brick is, I think. Is that what you guys are meaning, where to stop where brick is and keep it where the cast iron is? You want, they're saying potentially keep it cast iron. Some that are mislabeled.
David, was your recommendation just to continue it all the way around?
And then they're saying.
I was questioning if you all thought that was a good idea, because
You're saying study, he's saying.
One
study.
option.
I see.
Cause there was one, which one was it that labeled it as that one right there?
Yeah, here it is.
One.
Oh, sorry.
That one labeled discussed. I think I'm okay either way, but
Yeah,
you guys just said to study it, right? You feel strongly about it one way or the other?
I think it's really nice tweaks from
Yep.
that. Very nice.
I agree. I think it's come a long way since the last presentation.
I agree with David's comments about the plant selection, that the red buds and the gardenia should be replaced. So that's concurrent. And then I also would like to request that the river gravel is replaced with a organic material indigenous to this region.
Let's motion it.
All right.
I'll make a motion for preliminary approval with staff comments 1, 2, 4, and 5. And board comment. River gravel replaced with organic material. All right. That's it.
So we have a motion for approval with staff comments 1, 2, 4, and 5, and with board comment to replace the river gravel with a organic material. Do we have a second? All right. I'll call roll. Ashley? Yes. I am also in favor, so she carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on our agenda is River Road at the intersection of the future Bernice Robinson Road, requesting preliminary approval for a new affordable housing community containing 90 units.
We have seen this project before, so I didn't have any context slides, so you guys can jump right in.
I'm Mike Osmond, with still be part of this.
Marion Sutherland.
So,
Let me know when you like this. It's fine.
Yeah. So just off the bat, we have a few aerial views to show in the context of the project. This is a affordable housing apartment development. The total of 90 units. There are 3 buildings and a clubhouse. Clubhouse has community amenities. It's the next slide.
Sorry.
Yeah, and these are some of the site photos down the new road that's being built. And these are some images of the existing apartment complex under construction adjacent to our property. These are from the tree survey, and this is the site plan. So you can see the 3 apartment buildings, the clubhouse kind of centrally located on the property. From the last meeting, the one change we did make to the walking path is it now has been pulled down, and the fence along the property line has been moved to the property line. And then that walking path extends farther into the existing trees, and has a loop at the end of it. Advance the next slide. These are just some of the landscaping plans from the last meeting. We did adjust the planting beds to give them more organic feel to them and less rigid. We also gained our condensing units around the building, and instead of being scattered all around the building, we gain them into little clusters at the rear of the building. Then there is, you want to advance spots. See, yeah, you see some of those clusters. And then there's a detail on L1 -05 of a fence, kind of a living fence wall that will screen those units. So this is what we're proposing for the fence along the property line. Like a wooden fence of the solid fence. See through it. Fence. And then we had some renderings of the buildings. This is one of the first buildings as you drive up. And then look at the corner of the L-shaped building. I see the clubhouse in the background, and this is a view of the community clubhouse. Advance. Side advance again. So building floor plans, there were no real changes to the floor plans other than mentioning clustering the HVAC units. None of them were along the fronts of the building. They're all kind of gathered to the rear or side of the buildings. So they still be screened with a fence and landscape fence. Take the next couple, there's just floor plans, roof plans. And this is the community clubhouse. There's fitness, laundry, an activity room, a multi-purpose space, and then the leasing office in this building. So the top elevations are from the previous middle, bottom elevations, where we're currently at. Based on board and staff comments, we did simplify the roof, eliminate the asymmetrical gables in favor of symmetrical gables over all of our balconies. We also simplified the siding, eliminated the two different siding sizes that were separated by vertical trim boards. Instead, went to all 6-inch lap siding. And we also studied the breezeway entrances. In the previous version, they were flush with the building face. In this version, we projected them out to break up that elevation, as well as provide a little shed roof to help break the roof line up as well. Some of the side elevations of the building, other than simplifying the siding, there weren't many changes to the side elevations. We did open up those breezeways at the end, where we had kind of built some wall, a little bit of wall, make punched openings to the breezeway, and we opened that up based on some staff comments. It's another, this is the rear elevation of buildings A and B. So these are the elevations of the clubhouse. You can see the top elevations from the previous to middle. So we did kind of similar thing, eliminated the complicated siding pattern and asymmetrical gables in favor of the hip roof to kind of eliminate all that blank gable space. And we also created a little tower element at the entrance to the clubhouse. It's kind of almost its own little breezeway, separating some of the activity spaces. So use that as kind of that entry point, and then the activity room to the left-hand side on that lower right elevation has its own little covered entrance that would be for an after-school program to operate out of. And so the materials we're proposing, brick veneer at the base. This is the state finance agency does have design requirements we have to meet. So one of those is we have to have a minimum of 30% brick on all our elevations. So that kind of we use that first floor level as that point to separate the material. So we have brick, veneer at the base, and then we had the 6-inch lap siding above it. And then some of the areas where we have the shed roofs and we have projections, we clad that in board back. And then where the apartment buildings will have the asphalt shingles and the clubhouse will have standing seam. I think we have a few wall sections, building sections in here. I'll kind of leave it at that.
Other questions from the board?
I had one question. I know on sheet A13. Yeah, I was just curious, the, looks like from the previous submittal to the current submittal, the roof, I guess. This side, I was just curious what's going on there, and is there any way to just have it as a simple continuous ridge, or is?
Yeah, it's for the shape of the building at that area, when you kind of, in
Okay,
this zone, you're transitioning from you're not as deep there. And so we were trying to find a way to keep that as simple as possible. And what you're seeing is, it looks a little more dramatic in elevation because you have that hard line, but it just hits back in that position just a little bit to make the transition from this roof that's only covering half of the building width versus this side that's got more of it. And we're also, on the other side of that elevation, we have a gable roof in that same plane. So
Is there a roof plan for this one?
there is, early.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, so you can see on the left-hand side, we've got that gable roof coming across, and then we're kind of transitioning between two different widths of building. So this was, and the gable over that balcony on the right-hand side also kind of makes this interaction that was a little challenging. Yeah, I feel like in elevation and roof, it's more complicated than it really is. We certainly show a rendering from that side, but this was the simplest roof.
Small thing at the entrances and the main entry breezeway, there's, looks like in the previous submittal, you had some sort of screening
Yes,
covering the whole thing.
yes,
Is there kind of a remnant of that on the ground floor?
there's not.
There seems to be kind of,
Um,
maybe in that enlarged
Which one?
elevation,
Which one?
the enlarged elevation that called out the materials.
no, you're seeing the stair beyond. Stair to that breezeway that's going up.
Stuff here?
Those are some brackets holding up the little shed roof.
Gotcha.
Just to kind of create a more pedestrian, entry point.
But it's board and batten behind that.
So that tower piece,
second panel.
it's a fiber cement panel. That's right, some trim boards and panel. But yeah, right behind that shed roof is, there is a section of wall that roof ties into. That's all fiber cement.
One more question on clarifying the fence material. I know you mentioned when you described it as being a solid wood fence, but I think it's called out as composite.
The detail does call out composite.
Yes, it would, we are proposing composite fence that has the wood aesthetic.
Cool. That's what I thought, but he had just said solid, wood, so I wanted to clarify. Okay. She said they are proposing composite with a wood aesthetic.
For durability.
Any other board questions?
Just out of curiosity, because I wasn't here for that conceptual, the fun roof. That was that the board comment that it was.
That was Dino's comment. The fun.
I like it.
I wasn't here.
None of us.
Is there anyone from the public here to speak on this item?
Yes, I have a good question.
Okay, if you stand up, introduce yourself, give your name and address for the record or just your name, I'm sorry. And are there any other members of the public here? Okay, you can have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you. Just a few questions, and I come in since of working this out together. So some of my questions are taken from the wetlands. Are y'all working and had a study with the Corps of Engineers?
And just
So when,
to clarify, you'll have to read all your questions before they can respond. We can't do a like question and answer thing, but.
and then the other one is, has the tree survey been conducted? If so, by whom and when? And traffic is always a major issue in this area. I'm not sure we can even.
We're not,
question
right.
right now. And if so, has a traffic study been done? And that's just my question.
And could you state your name for the record,
It's
please?
Robin Mitchell.
All right. Thank you. We did receive another public comment from Robin Moore at 2347 Private Leffler Drive. And the question, it was a question, does the building design allow for first responders to enter and exit quickly and safely? And those types of issues are addressed at TRC, so not really within our jurisdiction. All right, city staff recommendations.
Thank you. Staff observations. It appears that all the previous staff and board comments have been addressed since the last DRB meeting. The building elevations and detailing has improved. Staff supports the design direction, the materials, and the color palette. The applicants are meeting the state's required amount of brick for affordable housing. The landscape plans are looking much better. And the applicants are specifying native seed mix for the dry ponds, which is an improvement. Staff comment number one. There are conflicting notes about the plans, on the plans as to the material of the 6-foot height screen fence at the property line. It's called out as both wood, composite, and aluminum on the plans. Staff asked the applicants to make sure that all the staff notes and detailing is consistent. Staff comment number two, staff had asked the applicants to provide real wood fence at the property line. Composite fence is shown in the fence detail. Staff asked the applicants to provide more information on the composite fence and that it be of a quality that looks like real wood, will not bow or fade in color over time. Staff recommends the fencing at the property line to be a darker natural color of brown or green. Staff comment number three. The site plan does not show any fencing around the AC units. The landscape plan does show fencing, but it's not called out. There's a live fence detail provided, but we're not sure where this is proposed, although the applicant did say that is what's proposed for around the AC units. Staff recommends that the fence material be the same material as what is being proposed on the property line. So there's composite, and but that color should match the building color, complement or match that building color. But we do recommend preliminary approval with the conditions noted and final review by staff.
David. Applicant have a chance to respond to the public and staff comments.
Sure, so a wetlands survey has been done. We're not proposing any impacts to wetlands at this time. The jurisdictional wetlands in front, non-jurisdictional at the rear. No wetland impacts are being proposed. The second question was
Tree survey.
tree survey. A tree survey has been prepared, an arborist assessment has been prepared, and we have gone to the Board of Zoning Appeals for the proposed tree impacts. So those have been approved and addressed throughout our site planning process. And then traffic, yes, we did do a traffic study for the city. And as of last week, the city traffic engineer, James Wallace, has blessed traffic study.
Any other response or clarification? Okay, great. Move into board discussion.
I like the design direction. I think it's true to what it is. It's honest building. I do agree with board comments about the fencing around the mechanical units. I think it's kind of a not a policy, but it's understood that not to rely on vegetation for screening. What's that? I wish there was a way to simplify the roof a little bit, but that's not a deal breaker for me. I feel like the detailing is nice and it's a quality building.
I think I would like to see some studying of the amenities building roof line, particularly at the higher hip roof at the tower portion. Is some kind of awkward intersections. Yeah. The corner clipped on that tower. I think that could use a little bit of refining, just not just that particular piece, but the roof in general. But yeah, that'd be my only comment.
Yeah, I agree with staff's comments on the fences. I think the composite can vary a lot in quality, so I think requiring material specification is good. I also think that the live fences take a while to fill in, so they're not good for screening. And then we should request a replacement for the eastern red buds because they just don't do super well. And then the landscape plan also seems to be missing bedline definitions, kind of delineating where the mulch and the grass are. And so just request that the bedlines are added to the landscape plan.
All right, ready for a motion?
Sure.
So I'll make a motion. Make a motion for preliminary approval with staff comments 1, 2, and 3. And board comment to study the roof at the amenities building.
I think they called it the
Clubhouse building. And let's see, from landscape, find a replacement for the eastern red buds. And add bed lines to the landscape plan.
So we have a motion for preliminary approval with staff comments 1 through 3 and board comments to study the roof at the clubhouse, replace the red buds, and add bed lines throughout the landscape plan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Changes up a little bit. We have a second. Sorry, David. We will call roll. Lucas?
Yes, in favor.
I'm also in favor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
They're in the lobby.
What's that?
Yeah, they did tell me they're gonna walk out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think all these might be one slide. At least we'll be close to that.
Okay. Next item. Next item on our agenda is 3166 Maybank Highway Building E, requesting preliminary approval for Building E, one of two-story buildings that are in phase 2 of this medical office and retail development. Do you have an
Thank you, Erin.
introduction?
No introduction. We've done this project before, so we'll step right up.
And do you think you'll need more than 10 minutes for this presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah, if the board's open to it, we were thinking of just quickly revisiting the previously approved buildings and design strategies. Since they all kind of inform each other, we can be very quick about it.
Okay, great. All right.
On the site plan side, since there's building E and F, but they're kind of on the same site plan, so I'll probably just do my whole big lots and then he can have the lots. I'm Amy Chicken with HOA.
Let me know when you like to.
So you're all familiar with the site, just go into the site plan. So we came in front of you before with track 1, and now we're doing track 2, which is the western part of the site. And so it includes building E and F and the corresponding parking that goes along with it. So the buildings were placed up against Slack Tie Drive, which is currently, it's constructed and very close to being dedicated over to the city. As well as Beer Garden Way. And so we placed the buildings up along Slack Tide Drive. And also then worked around the grand trees. So there's a couple of clusters of trees, a really nice magnolia, some other smaller trees, and then another nice cluster of live oaks. And so kind of worked around the building. The building's kind of notching out the corners of the buildings in order to get them up to the street and have that presence up to the street as well, saving the grand trees. As well as we have along the entrance here some screen walls to because of the awkward connection of the drive where we had to put the entrance and kind of where we took the site to get to the back of the site. With the entrance there, you can kind of see the parking, so screen walls have been placed there to kind of provide a little bit of architectural element up along the street and at the same time screen some of the parking. As far as the landscaping goes, kind of follows on same mostly native plant material that we proposed in phase 1. I think besides the deadly saw palmetto that Andy was so against the last time. That was removed, but for the most part, it's native plant material, creating, kind of enhancing the areas where we did save trees and then working around the buildings. Along this property, there's a large city drainage easement that's along this back property, so there's really not a large buffer area there, and the adjacent property is also within the PUD, so it's not something that we were necessarily trying to spin. As far as detention towards the back of the property, this is building E, and the back of the property is building F. There's some impervious parking, along with a larger planted iron to help with some storm drainage irrigation. I'm about to answer any questions, and I will turn it over to Bossy because he has a lot more to say about the building.
Thank you, Amy. David, if we got a site plan diagram on somewhere around slide 198, I think.
I think the slide numbers may be off from what we were anticipating.
Yeah, okay, no worries. I think we're coming up to it here in a second. Oh, that back, one back. Yep. So just a quick refresher for the board. Obviously, we've got 6 shell buildings in the whole master plan. A, B, C, and D were approved preliminarily back in October. And then in June, we presented the whole master plan, initial concepts for each building, along with building E and F that was approved. So these are the single-story buildings along Maybank, and then D is the 2-story building. So everything in blue was the previous submittal, and then tonight we're here for submission of or presentation of building E and F, which is in the orange here. Next slide, please. Just 1 or 2 more. We can skip ahead. Let's see. Yep, right. I'm sorry, 1 back. Just want to quickly visit that our neighbors to the west is Avalon RV, and then to the right we have Angel Oak Animal Hospital. And this just gives you a preview of what was sort of approved during preliminary. So we have our single-story medical office buildings, shell buildings along Maybank. These are 37 to 28 feet in height and scale. Then as we step back from Maybank, we start getting into the 2-story scale buildings as you see in building E and D. Obviously E will we be presenting tonight. The next slide, yeah. So this gives you a sense of scale along Slack Tide Drive. Again, we've got Maybank to the left here, single story, then stepping up to D and E, and also, E and F. And previously, building D was approved, which was also 2 stories, but kind of showing you that graduation. So building E sits about 215 feet from Maybank Highway. So even as a larger scale, we've got some distance between us and the intersections. Next slide, please. So just a reminder, the overall master plan, 3D site plan, the whole site is sort of woven together with outdoor courtyards and amenities and parks and plazas. And then buildings E and F would be the presentation for this evening. Enlargement of a single story along Maybank. Next slide, please. This is a good slide just to sort of showcase that building E does have frontage, it's visible from Maybank, and then building F, which we'll get to in the next presentation, is right across from the common Central Park area with the pergola, and also faces towards Slack Tide. And again, this is the RV as our neighbor to the west. Let's see, I think next slide, please. Yeah. So just to give you a sense of what the architecture might feel like once this is built out, kind of touring the medical village. This is the language along Maybank. We can go next slide, please. This is at the intersection of Meeks Farm Road, and this is building E, which we'll be presenting, we are presenting tonight. But just again, to give you a sense of the palette that we had before, so we had board and batten, brick, some really simple roof forms, and all the language is tied together by the same exterior materials palette. Next slide, please. Next slide. And then as you turn into Slack Tide Drive off of Maybank, you start to see the scale of the buildings grow, and this is building E right there. So that kind of gives you, that sort of concludes the overview of the master plan, just a refresher of kind of what we presented before. And so, David, I think slide 220. We can start with that. Yeah, that's fine. So I do want to point out that nothing has substantially changed with building E. Our square footage is almost exactly the same. Our height scale of mass is the same. We have added a lot of additional detailing and some of the brick and some of the fenestration, but the massing is the same. This might be a good slide to kind of jump ahead and talk about these retaining walls. So we've had these different knee walls and retaining walls kind of throughout the whole master plan. In this case, in front of E, these retaining walls are acting as a screening for the parking. So this is a tabby wall that sort of graduates and it has a brick cap to it. And that doesn't show up in a lot of other drawings. So I want to point it out now. Next slide, please. This is just a view going north along Slack Tide. So we have our main entry plaza that will be facing Maybank. This is building D, which was previously approved. Next slide. And then this is a good view that sort of shows building E and F in sequence. And we have this kind of natural landscape area that we're keeping, and we've got sort of these knee walls that sort of emerge and provide some areas for pedestrians to have seating along the sidewalk. Next slide, please. Okay, and if we can jump ahead to the plan view, which is 221. Yep, here we go. So again, this is a shell building, 2 stories. The intent is a flexible design that can be set up for 2 to 4 tenants. So this building has really been shaped by Slack Tide Drive and also trying to work around some of the existing natural landscape and low areas and this magnolia tree, but it's really designed to acknowledge Maybank and also to acknowledge Slack Tide Drive, which you sort of see in this image right here. So we've got 4 entries at grade. The primary entry to the 2nd floor, the elevator lobby, occurs on the parking lot side, and we have a small little plaza here on the other side of the building that acknowledges Slack Tide Drive. Next slide. 2nd floor is simply a shell building. Next slide. Roof plan, we've got a primary gable form and then a secondary gable form. And then all of our mechanicals are tucked into a well on the west roof line. So we can go to, like, skip ahead to, maybe if we could jump ahead maybe somewhere around 226, 227, a little bit further ahead. That's good right there. So we did have one comment from conceptual back in June on this building. And I believe Mr. Dino's asked us to sort of restudy this brick parapet feature here. So that's the main thing that we focused on. since the last presentation. So if we go to the next slide, this shows you the new sort of articulation of the brick. Really kind of a simplified roof line that really matches this kind of crossing gable that extends and shows itself on the other side of the building. So we've got this in elevation too, which might be easier to see. But that was the main thing that has sort of evolved since the last presentation. Next slide. Again, this was the previous. You're going to see a little bit of difference in some of the fenestration here. We've added some detail. If you go to the next slide, please. Yep, proposed. So we've got a little bit of corbelling of these brick accent panels that sort of step back. We've simplified some of the fenestration up here. Previously, it was a 4-unit window. Now it's 3. We've added some gutter downspouts and really done some stuff to kind of make it real. We've worked with structural engineer and better understanding the floor plate. We feel like all of our heights and window heads are sort of set at this point. Next slide, please. So this jumps ahead to kind of one of our typical entry shed roof elements here. So we've got an engineered timber column, kind of a canted column feature. We've got some other details on our materials palette that shows we've got sort of a V groove, sort of ceiling-like material of it. It kind of warms up these entries. This happens to be facing towards Maybank here. We have a fairly significant drop off, kind of preserving that natural area. Next slide, please. Yep. And so the material palette, again, is consistent with what we previously proposed. So if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer it.
Thank you. Are there questions from the board? Go for it.
The brick, Lassie, on that went from the parapet to the basically under the gable roof. What's the return back? I mean, it looks like it's kind of flush in the renderings. Looks like it's flush in the renderings, but plan shows it's got some relief when it turns back. What is that depth that it turns back to the siding?
It turns back about 2'4", so trying to kind of keep it within a masonry increment. And then there was a slide earlier that kind of showed this building in sequence with building F. And you sort of see that same kind of brick bookend occur on building F that sort of fronts towards building E. But it's, to answer your question, it's roughly 2 feet, 4 inches long.
2 feet's the depth, but what's the return back?
Oh, I'm sorry, to the building itself.
What's the return back to the building, the
Yeah.
siding? I mean, it almost looks flush in the
Yeah,
rendering.
no,
That's what
it's,
I'm
I
asking.
think our plan on 221, it shows it, it's roughly 12 inches, and I don't have it dimensioned, so I'm eyeballing that.
Roughly a foot.
Yeah.
I have a couple, and I think you might have just answered one, but so you have this really clear, first of all, it's really nice. Really, everything's really well put together, but you have this really clear diagram of these two intersecting gables. And it's so close to being one brick and one siding, and they come together. And you even have that entrance of the siding gable carved away and the brick of the other gable being revealed. And so I figured there must be a reason that you didn't just continue the brick along the sides of that quote unquote brick gable.
Yeah, so it has some relationship to the previous building D that we had approved as well. But there's a slide that shows, I don't know if we can go to, there's a bird's eye in 209. Anyways, it just sort of had, it was sort of in keeping with what we were doing on building F. So right here, you sort of start to see these forms kind of emerging throughout the whole master plan. And then I think between this form and that form, we're actually using a different siding as well to kind of further differentiate those two.
And then the other question is the gables are different widths, right?
Slightly, yeah.
Slightly. Is there, and I know this can get fussy, but is there any way to get the eaves and ridges lined up through like having a heel on the truss or a different slope on one side? Because it's just close enough where.
Yep. You're exactly right. We sort of arm wrestled over that, studied that. I think our elevation shows some good depictions of that too.
Almost there.
Yeah, it is almost there.
You could even put a heel, is it a
So
truss roof?
it is. So you can see previously, this was the previous one. We actually had this one primary sort of spine or kind of gable, and each side had a different gable. So to provide some consistency, we actually let this run all the way through the building. You can see it's slightly longer. But we could elevate it and try to align those eaves. It would be much easier to do that if we could also manipulate this width a little bit. So we have a good view of that. David, I don't know if 231, if that one shows kind of the intersection of those two elements. And 3 right there, yeah,
It's so close.
yeah. I think also you're just kind of reminding me, in some of the previous buildings that we've designed, we're sort of using the brick sparingly, we're using it, but when we use it, obviously it holds a lot of weight, it carries a lot of weight. And so I think on like building C, we've got a portion of it that's brick, but really having all this brick all the way down, I'm not sure we can pull it off the same way, but I agree. I know that's,
Just so close.
yeah, it's.
That's all the questions.
And we studied, trying to expand out this footprint a little bit. Obviously, we're sort of hemmed in by some of the site constraints and parking widths.
But that could just be a matter of not changing the plan, I'm not.
Yeah.
Saying that, but just manipulating the pitch
Yeah,
of one, right?
exactly.
Is there anyone from the public here to speak on this item today? Yes. City staff recommendations.
Some staff observations first. Building E and F received conceptual approval on 6/20/23 from the entire site, and all the buildings were in for conceptual. It looks as if all the previous staff and board comments have been addressed. Staff supports the revised facade on the east side of building E as the board and asked applicants to study. It appears the roof screening of the mechanical units are well concealed. The applicants are providing some pervious pavers in the parking lot as staff asked. On the photometric plan, lighting levels appear to be following DRB policy, staying at or below 5-foot candles. The facade signage is sized appropriately for the space we're located, but DRB approval does not include the signage today. That'll be a separate review. Staff comment number 1. Amy did touch on this a little bit about their desire not to add a buffer on the west property line. But I do have a couple examples I want to show. Regarding the west property line of the project, there appears to be existing screen fence along part of this property line, and I do have a photograph of it. So this is a photo of the entrance, and you can see the RV park next door, and then this is zooming in. This is an existing fence along that property line. So I just had some comments regarding the landscape plan. This is kind of a zoom in right here. Staff does feel that this should be screened to block some of the views into the RV park. Let me see here. Staff recommends adding to the landscape screening along this entire lot line, adjacent to the entry drive and parking lot only, not the entire lot line, but just along the parking lot, to create a natural buffer and to screen views into the RV storage. Staff recommends taller screening along the fence line in addition to the palmettos. Consider more variety and random placement of the plants rather than consistent groupings of 2 species. Consider more ornamental trees along this fence line that have a wider crown to screen at higher levels. Consider eliminating the long grass that's specified in this area and letting this strip go naturalized. We ask that the applicants provide more photos of this lot line to show the fence as existing and show the fences existing on the site and landscape plan. Staff also questions the spacing of about 4 feet for the specified camellias and Florida that can get 2 times that width. Staff suggests spacing the plants more appropriately. The same amount of plants could be spread out to cover more of this area. Consider native plants that don't require irrigation. Staff comment number 1, there are some areas on the landscape plan. Here's a blow up. Areas of the landscape plan in the northeast corner of this phase boundary that did not get defined as what it will be specified as. I believe this might be intended for long grass, but it's not called out. I believe maybe just the hatching was, the stippling was turned off. But we do recommend preliminary approval with the conditions noted and final review by staff.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to respond or clarify any staff comments?
Yeah, as far as the buffer along this property, there is a drainage easement, so existing conditions through the site. There's a large ditch that picked up from SCDOT drainage that we're gonna back down to the wetlands. And so that drainage is being picked up and rerouted, and so this is going to be a city drainage easement that runs all the way along through here. And so there isn't a lot of room to put larger trees. I guess we probably could do something a little bit taller with some of the landscaping and some evergreen, but there really isn't the room to have a nice thick buffer. Within the PUD, there is no buffer required up against this adjacent commercial use. Something we can look at and see what we can do, but we won't be able to plant that whole kind of area.
Well, you are specifying quite a bit of plants here. I was just wondering if you could just spread those out or.
That's what we can't,
choose
like,
more
we're,
natives.
they're lined up like they are because we can't because of the city drainage easement. They don't want us to put any planting on top of the actual storm water pipe.
I think it would be helpful then if we could just see the delineation of the drainage easement, or is it showing up there? Is
No,
it?
it's not showing up.
Okay, I think that would help clarify
Okay,
where plants could be.
okay.
Thank you.
And, did you want to clarify the areas that weren't hatched? Did David have a question about?
Yeah, these areas here, there is nothing specified in all these white areas. Is that supposed to be long grass? Like-
No, not all of it. I think in some of the areas it was either just gonna be
Mulch.
mulch, but around there it probably just maybe sod or some other grass, but we'll specify and make sure we either put a bed line or finish it out.
All right, moving forward discussion.
I think it's an elegant building. I think it's made improvements from the conceptual. I didn't think I would mind it until Lucas mentioned it, but I do think a little restudy of the roof line there could be helpful. But other than that, I'm good.
I'll just say, see if you can align the ridge and the eaves and try, see if you like continuing the brick. So it's 1 brick volume, 1 siding volume.
As far as staff comments go, I think, I agree with the first part of David's comment that, we understand if we could see the delineation, we can understand where we can't plant, but within that planting area, we could probably, or y'all could probably vary the height of the screening a little bit more to break up that view into the RV. So I agree with that, though I would like to strike the second paragraph. Mostly because of that last sentence, native plants still need irrigation, so I don't want to spread that myth any further.
Cancel.
The whole paragraph, and I'm not opposed to planting them densely. And then one other thing for consistency, I think we should request a replacement of red buds since we did on the previous 2 projects. So just so we're consistent with all of our projects. And then as far as comment 2 goes, I think you were kind of asking the question, and I think we can just say to, provide clarity in what area is sodded and what area is mulched.
All right. Good. I'll make a motion. I'll be the motion guy tonight. Make a motion for preliminary approval with staff comments. 1, delete the last paragraph of 1. Staff comment 2. And board comment to align the eaves at the roof. Study the brick volume. That good enough for you?
Eaves and ridge.
Eaves and ridge, okay, eaves and ridge. I say study the brick volume. Is that? You're not actually saying they need to change it to brick, yeah. Study the brick volume. Replace red buds from the landscape plan. And provide clarity where we're sodded and where there's mulch.
And show the drainage easement.
And show the drainage easement delineation.
Can you take out the ridge comment? If it makes it easier to just align the eaves and not align the ridge.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to,
Take out the
because okay,
So
just say align the eaves at roof, yeah.
First comment is to, okay, align. Okay. At roof. Right?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. And clarify if I missed something, but we have a motion for approval, for preliminary approval. With staff comment 1, striking the second paragraph of that. Staff comment 2, board comments to align the eaves at roof. Or number 1 was to align the eaves at the roof. Number 2 was to study the brick volume. Is that enough? Okay. Number 3 was to find a replacement for the red buds. Number 4 was to provide clarity in sod versus mulch areas. And number 5 is to show the delineation of the drainage easement. All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Lucas is second. I'll call roll. Ashley? Yes, I'm also in favor. Thanks. All right. Next up, 3166 Maybank Highway, Building F. You want to do any kind of introduction, David?
You can jump right in. I get it.
Do you need, is 10 minutes good now, or do you need more time for here?
I think we should
Okay,
run through it real quick, yeah.
great.
David, somewhere around 274 would be a master plan site diagram, right? Maybe a little bit further ahead, I thought. And maybe 1 or 2 more. Okay, there we go. So last building is building F. It's the largest building, 19,411 square feet. And again, this is acknowledging Beer Garden Way and Slack Knife Drive. And this building is also shaped by some of the existing site features. We have a 22-inch live oak we're saving here in this sort of natural area. And then it's surrounded by parking. The majority of our parking for track 2 sort of happens on this side of the building, on that side of the site. If we could jump to the plans, which should be 1 or 2 slides. There we go. So similar to the other buildings, this is a shell. We see this being set up for maybe anywhere from 1 to 2 up to 4 or 5 tenants. We have the one primary vertical circulation for the elevator lobby adjacent to the rear parking. We do have a little bit of a longer porch element on this side as it's serving so much of the parking. This building is just a larger scale. And then on Slack Time Drive up here, that's the little small plaza entry that we have as well. Next slide. And just second level is a shell. So rooftop might be worth talking about. So we have a primary gable And then we sort of step down to the shed roof line, and then we have this sort of buttressing kind of parapet effect on each side with these brick masonry elements. And then we conceal the mechanical with a flat wall on the roof line. David, I'm thinking we can go to somewhere around 280, or you're fine there, yeah. We can back up one slide, please. So just a quick bird's eye view of building F. And again, you can see these natural areas here, and then this is where we have that 22-inch live oak. This is our plaza fronting slack tie drive, and then the RV sort of in the back. Next slide, please. This is a good perspective to see that this building actually happens right across from the central park-like area as well. Just a rear parking lot entry here. This building has some massing elements with brick bays. It very much relates to what was going on building D, sort of across slack tie drive. Yeah. So a view along slack tie, and that's the natural area right there between the E and F. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, let's back up one. So this was the previous right here. And you can see since that time, we've had some further articulation of the windows and the brick detailing. Next slide, please. Yeah. So we sort of lined up these window heads, added the accent panels here at this sort of spandrel level. We've got some graduation and some corbelling up here that sort of matches what we're doing on some of the front buildings along Midbank. Yeah, I think previously one of the comments was we had a window up there and it was a question of is there actually a third floor, and there's not. So we sort of simplified that just to have this sort of punctuation, this little louvered element there. And then this will be the facade that fronts towards Beer Garden Way. Next slide, please. Okay, we can jump to the next one. Oh, so that was previously proposed. We've actually increased the overhang of our rear entry here at this porch-like element on the back. We've added some downspouts, and again, sort of further coordinate our actual floor plates. We've kind of delineated where we have our through wall Z flashing for all of these less than 12-foot segments of our vertical board battens, fiber cement. Next slide, please. And then finally, we just got the typical entry at our timber canopy with the cedar soffit. This is going into the second floor elevator lobby. Yeah, I think the final slide would be the materials palette, which may be one or two further. Yeah, right there. So if there's any questions about materials, again, they're very consistent with the previous buildings.
Okay. Any more questions? Anyone from the public? All right, staff comments.
Thank you, Aaron. There were no specific previous board directives for building F. Staff supports the design direction and the detailing of this building, and we recommend preliminary approval.
Applicant like to respond? Board discussion and a motion. We can change it up with this one.
Change it up.
Take a stab at it.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
There you go.
Do we have a second? A
Second.
motion for preliminary approval. Do we have a second? Ben is the second. All right, Ashley? Yes, I'm also in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next item on our agenda is 1401 Sam Rittenberg Boulevard, requesting preliminary approval for a new Publix grocery and a retail building at the existing Ashley Landing.
We've seen this project before, so you all can jump right in.
Great.
Hi, good evening, and I guess still the afternoon. I'm Bruce Herman with West Ashley, that joins me from Faison, and tonight we had Bill Fisher with Fisher Architects, Bob Amaral with Revere, and Nick Allport with HLA, our landscape architect. I don't think we want to go into a lot of the detail. We were here December 4th and we received conceptual approval. And And the majority of the comments were focused on facade as well as landscaping. So our emphasis is just to take you through that this evening. Show you where we've, obviously made adjustments and improvements. So I'll get into it rather quickly. Just you get through the photos, and I'm gonna, Nick Alford's gonna join me to walk us through the landscaping. This is the demolition plan. So this shows the site demolition plan. This was submitted if we were here in December for 2 applications. One was a separate demolition application, which covers the existing old department store building as well as the theater slash most recently church in the back of the center. And then this is the overall site plan. Showing the site improvements, which are part of the TRC submission as well. And then this is where we began to address a number of the comments. And Nick, if you want to start jumping into the landscape, actually, well, before we jump off, actually, you know what, it shows up better, David, on the next one. You'll see some differences from our last one, and I'll sort of hit the pedestrian connectivities. One of the comments we received was, in addition to the pedestrian connection that we have up at the west side of this plan north, which brings people, it's a current cut through to the neighborhood, to the Charleston Drive neighborhood. We are able to bring people along a sidewalk area and bring them into the center, crosswalks, and then obviously the connection points over to the north side of the center. One of the comments was we found a place to do a second crossing, incorporated an island where we had some painted area before, and we're able to bring people again through this pedestrian connectivity over to the sidewalk area. We also found a place to relocate the dumpsters that were previously here in the last plan and moved them to a more hidden area on the site, back in, tucked in behind the Publix facade on the rear, and also gave us a second opportunity to screen the generator that's here for the public. So it was really came out to be a much better situation in the back. And I think one of the comments was we spent a lot of time on the architecture, spend more time on the facade, on the environment and how people were getting through the site, especially from this neighborhood, which continues to be able to access the site. I'll let Nick jump into the landscaping as we get into questions. So,
all right. So the overall intent of this landscape plan was to bring an emphasis to the pedestrian connections as well as pedestrian areas, as well as soften the site into the areas that we were able to. I'd like to highlight, can't really see it on the screen, but there is a red dash line that comes through the back here. That's the existing edge of pavement as it stands now. We added that to this page to show the amount of existing buffer and landscape that we're going to be retaining, as well as how much we're going to be adding in the rear to help with the screening of the back of the house. Drew touched on the pedestrian connections. The next slide actually has those kind of outlined.
back one, David, please.
Yeah,
right there.
So these show kind of pedestrian connections that we've added, how pedestrian can get from the adjacent neighborhood and through the site. We feel in concert with all the county road improvement plans that overall this site will become extremely walkable and pedestrian friendly. I can jump to the next slide. So these insets show some of the areas that we added kind of a hierarchy of intensity to not only bring more attention to detail to the pedestrian areas, but also slow the pedestrian down. So the connection road through here, the islands as you enter from the rear parking lot are more intense landscaping than the rest of the parking lot. We've had an outlay of palms come through here. This extends all the way out to the new pedestrian, the vehicular circulation that we've established. This kind of ties the vehicles from the main parking lot to the rear parking lot. Those palms are also continued along the Publix facade. So this kind of brings a harmony of all the pedestrian areas. This inset shows.
Oh, sorry.
You're good. This inset shows the facade that faces Old Town and how we kind of integrated the buffer landscaping with the soft areas up against that facade. We've used a variety of different heights, plant materials, colors to kind of tie these things together. We brought some vertical elements in there as well with the palm trees, kind of tie the whole thing together. And then we were able to soften up these two islands up front as well. believe that is. Yeah, and then these are the technical landscape drawings here.
Thank you. Any board questions?
We haven't got to the buildings yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was waiting.
All that matters is the
I know.
landscape.
You put the landscape first, I get excited.
If you want to go quick.
It's fine. Just tear the buildings down.
You want to talk about you need to talk about the enlargements at all?
I don't think so.
No,
This
you
does
didn't
show, this does allow you to see some of the depth of sidewalk area and how we're, accommodate pedestrian connectivity to the front, from the rear to the center. But, I think, Bill Fisher will get into the building design.
We do have 4 minutes left. Is that enough time or do you want to extend? Okay. All right.
David, can you go to the next slide?
Yes.
So my intent in 4 minutes is to kind of go through your comments and hit the renderings, and then I've got some before and after comparative elevations. So one of the comments before, we use what we come out of town for call a Charleston fixture, but we've changed our light fixtures to more contemporary fixture that will go with more of the architecture. We've embellished the side, which I call the north-south connectivity. So we've embellished the side, we've added some more clear story lighting. There was a question, but I think we've got addressed. All this is true clear story lighting on the retail. We've emphasized the tower at the front of Publix as well. So you go to the next slide. This is from the southeast corner of the Publix. Again, increasing the landscaping. These were striped asphalt originally, but now these are, this is a lower landscaping, but these 3 palms are an additional island. We'll get to an elevation, but this was spandrel glass, false glass. We've embellished that more and articulated the end cap a little bit more than that. Next slide, please. This is the back. This would be the southwest corner. So before we saw this view, there was a concern about this element. We had this element, it was 3 feet. We've increased this to 10 feet off the wall. But what we've done is we've put true vision glass in, and that is a display window that's lit at night. And where we had the spandrel glass before, we've got laser cut aluminum embellishment that goes up the side. And there was also a concern at the time that we were using painted stucco and brick. This facade is, if it's not the not wood, which is the wood look, it's all brick. Same with the front elevation. There was a concern, the front elevation, we had some areas below that were painted stucco. The comment was to replace those with brick, but instead we did the whole facade as brick. Next, this is very similar to what was before, except for the lighting has changed. We've kept the festive lighting in, but we changed the poles out. It also gives me another opportunity to talk about the clear story lighting. We've got the wood look underneath all these canopies, and basically this is my better rendering to help sell the project. So I had to show it again. Another slide. This is from the other side. Again, the hot spots, light fixture, showing that these are clear story windows. This is new. We'll keep going. Same view, demonstrating clear story lighting. This is a new slide. There was a lot of discussion about the north-south drive, and it was much nicer than you can visualize. So what we've done is this is a phase 2, so it's kind of masked in, but this kind of gives you the articulation of what we anticipate going down to, I'll call it the back of the center, but really the back of the center connects to the neighborhood, so I wouldn't use the term. We've added the clear story lighting, but this again is where we've added a lot more articulation, and I'll show you in the elevations. You can keep going, please. One more. This is the original submitted front elevation of the Publix. This is what we've done since. All this is brick, front, top, and bottom, and then the additional landscaping. Next slide, please. The side elevation, which was the most conversation. This is a drive-through pharmacy. This was false glass, and as we talked, I have a big phobia about false glass, but this was spandrel glass, and this was basically an element in the back to help balance out the elevation. What we've done is we've taken the spandrel out, And this is laser cut aluminum ornamental inserts that are on brick. This is the area that we pop forward by 7 feet, and these are display windows. And there was a concern, this door was a painted metal door, now it's a curtain, a storefront. And that was the big, you know, I expect to have conversation on this, but that was the big concern before. And then the next elevation, please. This is the side we didn't overly talk about, but we really embellished it quite a bit because of that north-south drive. This is the side of the retail shops, north-south drive. This is the Publix. What we've done is this area here, we've added quite a bit of ornamental landscaping, but also articulated the elevations more, added the clear story. And in addition, when we relocated the dumpsters, which really aren't shown here, we put them in here. And then we used that, they're actually in front of this drawing. There's a generator here, which put a screen wall. We've added additional landscaping, heavy landscaping in the back. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we've done. So this is probably 120 feet forward, and this is the Publix wall in the back. So this was a big discussion about softening that area. So that's what we've done to articulate it. And 4 minutes.
Went over a little bit, but that's
I've got
okay.
pictures, I've got other things, so, if we go to, it was a big question, go to page 32 if you would. Can we keep going?
I don't think I have the same page.
So this is the one.
Okay.
So there was a discussion about trying to make the second floor walkout area. We have a cafe up top. And the cafe is programmed to look down over the store, but to bring light in from the back side. So these windows are to bring light into the cafe. The conversation was to make this an outdoor patio. It's not programmed as such. They don't line up to one another. Publix, we asked them, Publix's concern is the north elevation is going to be a cold, wet elevation. And we've got patios down below for that purpose. So we respectfully would prefer not to do it. It's just not a maintenance thing that they would want to take on. Plus, it's just not programmed that way. Their store is set up to look down over the cafe, to look over the store. So it's kind of not the concept they're doing. So that's the one thing we didn't say properly address, or we didn't do. We just chose to address it. So, and then I have slides of light fixtures and things like that if you choose that, and that's my 4 minutes.
Thank you. Now are there more questions? I have a couple. Okay.
On the, I guess it would be the east elevation, where you've added the display windows.
Yes.
How does Publix typically program that space?
Without a doubt, there'd be banners in it.
Okay.
There would be hung from the ceilings. So if there's if you could go backwards to where there's some wall sections. Oh, I'm sorry, the other backwards.
Deeper into the stack.
The first set of sections, so probably. Keep going, please.
We're looking for the east wall.
2 more. 1 more. So this is a section through here, and this is that space, and there would always be banners in it, and there would be seasonal banners. And it wouldn't be props like crates of fruit or anything like that, but they would be the banners that would all be lit at night, so it'd be displayed.
Okay, thank you. And then we also talked about the fence on the rear side of the property. And I am having a hard time recalling. Did we decide we weren't doing anything with that because it was gonna go away with the rerouting the intersection? Or is that addressed in landscaping?
Right, it's gonna end up having to be replaced. The fences on our property.
Okay.
Some of the fence will get rerouted with the road widening, or I should say road realignment. The county will do in Charleston eventually, but that'll be, sections of that fence will be completely removed and some of it has to be replaced.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone here from the public to speak on this project? Okay, city staff recommendations.
Here, some staff observations first. Staff supports the revisions to the site and the building that have been made since the last meeting. The project has progressed nicely. We support the improvements to the east and west elevations with the added glazing and the added panels with ornamental aluminum cutouts. The change from stucco to brick in the areas indicated is also an improvement. Staff is supportive of the hardscape in front of the buildings, as applicants are proposing a nice streetscape with decorative pavers, tree grades, and planters. Most of the previous and board comments have been addressed in the last meeting, except for the second floor cafe situation that was discussed. Staff feels, let me see, I'm sorry. Staff feels the finished floor difference could be achieved with a couple of steps leading to an outdoor cafe, but staff can support the applicant's desire not to add the second level outdoor seating, but ask the architects on the board to discuss that. Staff comment one, any DRB approval today does not include the monument sign. This will be a separate review at the end of the DRB process. Initial review of the sign by staff. We do find it fine and we support the current renovations to the monument sign. There's some staff comment number two, there's some foot candle numbers in the parking lot that are over what DRB allows, 5-foot candles. Applicants to please have a lighting consultant look at the DRB policy statement found on the DRB website. With that, we do recommend preliminary approval.
You,
Did I miss one?
you just have
I had
a
a
question about the fence.
Oh, that's for them.
Oh. Board discussion and a motion. Oh, yeah, do y'all have anything to respond to? Or comment? Okay.
I just wanted to applaud the dedication or what you guys have done for the pedestrian in the public realm. I think that's come a long way since the first time we saw this. I appreciate all the space that you're giving to the pedestrian in front of the public area. And also the Old Town Road improvements. I know they're small, but they I think they make a big impact. As far as the second floor seating, I'm okay not having it, but I would like you to consider, from the seating area, you are going to be able to see that modified bitumen roof on the outside. So consider doing something to that roof. If it's a green roof modules or something that, I would just consider it. To me, that's not a deal breaker, but it'd make that area a lot nicer for the people sitting on that second floor. And that's it. Anything else? Anybody else has anything?
Renderings are convincing, very convincing, very lively. Yeah, I had nothing. Can I ask one quick question?
Mhm.
The laser cut aluminum screens, they're recessed they're not just mounted to the brick,
Yeah,
right?
they're-
It's mounted to CMU.
Yeah, it's hard to see on this one. It's a recess like 6 inches to the face of the aluminum, and those are pin mounted.
Yep.
So it'll be brick and this front surface brick behind it, but then even the aluminum is recessed, yes.
No, appreciate the development of the landscape. It's improved a lot, along with just the overall site circulation. So.
Okay. Ashley, you want to make a motion?
Go for it, Ben.
I'll make a motion for preliminary approval. Staff comments 1 and 2. That's it.
All right, so I have a motion for preliminary approval with staff comments 1 and 2. Is there a second?
A second.
All right, I'll go to Ashley.
Just to reiterate what Ben had said, I really appreciate the attention to the comments that we had provided and making sure that all of that was addressed and coming back and getting you through in 2 meetings. So thank you for that. Yes.
All right, I am also yes in favor. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. 3 months for construction, you'll be open?
Stop reading.
Okay, next item on the agenda is 1656 Savannah Highway, requesting conceptual approval for a new addition and renovation to an existing Chick-fil-A restaurant.
I do have a few context slides. If I could direct your attention to the screen.
Do you need this? I have photos of it, but do you need the actual
Do
sample?
you mind?
No, I'm,
Yeah.
I'll look at it.
Yes, thank you. I should have.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
We want to pass around this thing like that.
We'll touch it and change our mind.
Yeah. Actually, no, we don't want.
The black one's loose. It falls off. Okay.
But just like to direct your attention to the screen.
Okay,
So this is the location of the next project. It's a renovation of an existing Chick-fil-A at 1656 Savannah Highway. A closer view. Closer view yet. The small addition they're gonna be doing is in the back of the restaurant here. It's mechanical. Is that what you call it, mechanical room?
Yeah, right now it's a service yard with a
Service
mechanical
yard.
room,
Yes,
so we would be demoing it.
and the view into the site. They don't need any approval for the demo since it's not 50 years old. View into the site. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant. Thank you.
we all need more than 10 minutes. Are you good?
Oh, we're good now.
Okay. Just please state your name and
Good afternoon, my name is Kevin Gomez. I'm from Interplan, civil designer, and this is,
I'm Travis Reynolds, architect project manager, Interplan.
and we go to the next slide, please. So this is the survey. We can see the existing condition of the Chick-fil-A. It's very typical Chick-fil-A. It has a drive-through. On the top, you can see a canopy. That's what we call the face-to-face canopy. Is where the staff member pick up the order from the customer. And on the bottom, you will see another canopy, and we call it the OMD canopy. That's where the staff member deliver the food to the customer. Then the customer can leave the site or they can park so they can eat. Next slide, please. So this is the proposed site. It's very straightforward. What we're doing is increasing the capacity of the drive-through. Now we have a triple lane on the entrance, and we are proposing a new face-to-face canopy because now it's bigger. This all transition to a dual lane down to the building, where we're proposing another canopy, a little bit bigger with the OMD. And also because we have a bigger drive-through entrance, we have to rotate a little bit the dumpster. So the trash truck does not block the entrance of the site. And as you can see, we also added the building addition on the rear. You can see there is a little bit bigger. And that's pretty much it for the site. So we can go to the building. Next slide, please.
So of course, this is our previous building footprint there with the small service yard and mechanical room and electrical. So if you want to flip to the next slide. So what we're doing with this building here is we're increasing not only the size of the addition there, we're also increasing the size of the interior of the drive-through there just to add some more space for the employees there, provide a better environment for them to move along cars quicker. Over here in the building addition, so we were able to add an employee room there. It does have a window in that, just a service area, and then of course our walk-ins up top there. Like Kevin had mentioned before with the OMD canopy on the side there, the idea there is to reuse most of the canopy column locations and then just expand outward. This canopy would look very similar to the one they have on site right now, black, the one over the window there, not the one currently over the the order areas. We're all going forward with this new black channel canopy. So if you want to go into the next slide. So of course, this is up top on the left, there's our existing conditions. And then down here in the bottom, we have our new one. So you can see the new dual lane canopy. As far as building improvements goes, we are going to be replacing the existing awning over the main entry there off to the right. You can go to the next slide. These are just colored elevations of the building there. You can go to the next slide. So this is the drive-through side elevation. So like we said before, we are expanding that canopy there. It's going to look relatively the same. It's just going to look shorter. It's going to be dual lane.
We are switching out, there's a bay of windows there that we're adding the new man door into the drive-through cockpit there. The windows around them will have a spandrel film on them, just so that you don't see the wall behind the windows there. You can go to the next slide. Of course, this is color renderings. And then the back elevation. So of course, this is where you saw the most change. We knocked down that existing building addition, built up the new addition to match the existing building height. All the brick on the building is gonna match the existing building, same with fixtures and whatnot. We are hanging a canopy over that back door there to match the entry canopy above the main canopy, above the, main entry. Go to the next one. And then this is our entry elevation where you can see that new main canopy over the main door and the new windows in the employee room over there. So you can go to the next slide. And continue. So this is the existing face-to-face canopy, the one we are knocking down. You can see there it is fabric. Go to the next slide, please. And there would be the triple lane face-to-face to match the OMD. The colors of it are going to be matching the canopies that are in the building there. Yeah. No, I think we're good. I think we're good. So there's just your canopy layout plan for what it looks like underneath the triple A canopy there. We are gonna have 2 to 3 menu boards. Still trying to work that out with Chick-fil-A there. But yeah.
So the idea for the canopy is also that works as a shelter for the staff member from the cold. They have fans and heaters.
Yeah, fans and heaters on there. All the canopy is internal drainage, so we would be connecting to underground storm if we can. Same for both the L1D and the face-to-face. Go to the next slide. It's just the front of the tent canopy. This is the existing OMD canopy. So like I said, we would just be kind of expanding that outward. We are gonna go ahead and demo out those trees there. But I think we've already talked about that. That's a proposed rendering of the new side there with the new OMD canopy. And that's just a layout for your OMD canopy showing, we do have crosswalks in there for the employees for safety. Do have 3-foot walkway in between the 2 cars there for safety. I guess that's all we have to present. Do you guys have any questions for us?
Thank you. Any more questions?
I was gonna ask you what OMD stood for, but I saw it. What's the what was it? Quick serve or
QSR.
QSRs? We learned that last year. Learn something new every day. Quick service restaurant.
Chick-fil-A loves to create acronyms.
Like OMDs, actually, we're gonna learn something here.
It's first for me.
I had a question. I assume that the landscape buffer and everything is good to go. Like that's okay.
Well, I have, one of my questions was about the landscape buffer, actually, the white fence on the north, this one here. When I look at the plans, it looks like the widening of these lanes is gonna be right up against the fence and you aren't showing this existing landscaping. Not that it looks that good anyway.
Yeah.
But I was just curious, is all this landscaping going away with the widening of these lanes? Let me go back to the site plan.
Yeah, we do have a new landscape plan. Yeah, new.
It's at the end. Yeah, at the end of the presentation.
Oh,
Is it
okay.
should-
Well, I was just looking at this here.
Okay, you can.
This is at the beginning. Well, I guess you do show a label
It
of
says-
landscape buffer.
Where's,
Okay.
do you have the
only 5
planting
feet.
plan?
Yeah,
Sorry, my
It
tablet.
just looks super tight on the photograph,
5 feet is tight.
Right.
But
but that's allowed by the city though, right?
Well, again, that's gonna kind of be TRC.
but is
Well,
there,
and it backs up to another metal building that's
Yeah, it's,
not.
Yeah,
but
it's
is there proposed landscaping in there?
yeah, I'm
That's what I was
sorry,
trying
I
to
think that's
see.
where.
You
the-
can pull that up.
The last sheet of our.
My
It's the
tablet.
very last
Oh,
sheet, yeah.
There it is. There it is.
So it doesn't go the.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at, that looked like the fence was too close to the curb to have any landscaping.
And the landscaping doesn't go the full length, it's just at that left corner.
Oh, that was the second part of my question, that white vinyl fence is gonna stay. Is that,
That's not on our, I believe that's not on our property, so yes.
so that,
It is according to, is that it on the survey? Yeah,
That's it right there, isn't it?
yeah,
which if you got rid of it, you could actually fit in some landscaping, because it looks like it's, I mean, it's jogging to accommodate those trees, but.
Yeah, we'll have to talk to see if that fence is on our property, because I know
Okay.
Chick-fil-A does not like fences like that, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's theirs or if that's the other
The
person's.
survey says it's yours.
Yeah, and it looks like if the fence is jogging around,
We'll look into it, so.
yeah,
yeah, can't study that.
I think I'd rather see landscaping there than that fence,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah,
mean,
but-
Yeah, I agree.
Vinyl fence against metal building.
yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Lucas loves the fence.
Beautiful.
That's the best part about the design.
Yeah, that captures it. Yeah, okay. Okay,
That's all I had.
okay. All right, is there anyone from the public here to speak on this project? No, so- Okay, staff recommendations?
Yes. The staff is supportive of the small yard addition and the renovation to the existing Chick-fil-A. The building addition matches the existing building. The additional order and pickup lanes will help along stacking lines. Staff had a previous input on the relocated trash enclosure, so we're fine with the location of that. Staff comment one, all bollards are to be painted dark bronze to match the canopies with the reflective band at the top of the bollard. Staff comment two, when supplying existing versus proposed comparisons for the site and building, it's helpful if they're both at the same scale and same angle. Number three, show the existing landscape along the north lot line. And with that, we do recommend conceptual approval. Final review by staff.
Is the
So-
north lot line the one that we were just looking at, the
Yes.
fence, okay, just making sure it's.
And so I had spoken to the applicants previously about if they could possibly skip a level and just go to final review by staff, but that's up to you all. But that's what we're recommending.
Do you have any response to board comments?
We'll take back the fence item and definitely check with Chick-fil-A and see. That's just, it is.
Great, thank you. You can sit down, we're board discussion.
So you'd rather see low fence and more landscaping, Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like the way that the fence is
especially if it's their fence.
positioned, when they widen it, there wouldn't be space for landscaping, so I'd rather see no fence and landscaping. And I'm okay with it going to staff for final,
Yep.
but just as long as you keep that on your radar, yeah.
I'll make a motion for the preliminary approval.
Well,
It'd be preliminary, right? So
Well,
final to you.
I don't, their drawings aren't at preliminary level.
Oh,
It could
okay.
just be conceptual approval. Because they don't have. any-
Oh, I got
they don't
you.
have building
So conceptual
inspections.
approval, and you're gonna skip preliminary. Gotcha. So I'll make a motion for conceptual approval
You have to
With staff.
specify.
with no preliminary approval needed. Do I say that?
You don't, I think you just say by final review by staff.
Final review by staff.
If there are any staff comments that you want.
Yep, staff comments, 1, 2, 3. And I guess that the board comment would be study the area where the existing fence is, preferred to have as landscaping,
Maybe add landscaping, I mean,
add landscaping.
just to be more clear about it. Okay. So we have a motion for conceptual approval with final review by staff. Staff comments 1 through 3 and board comment to study the, how do we want to word it, landscape and fence configuration. And
On the north.
add landscaping if
Add
possible
landscape.
along the north lot line. Okay, is there a second?
I second.
All right, Ashley? Yes, I'm also in favor. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll give it
I'm
to
building
you.
a host, can I?
They might give you the scraps.
Salvage the fence from the.
I'll,
I eat at this Chick-fil-A like.
We still have to do
I ate there on Saturday morning. I got chicken biscuits from.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for the January 16th, 2024 meeting.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion, second by Ben. Lucas, I am also in favor. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome.
Need a motion to adjourn. Can you do that?
No, we never do that.